Welcome back. Now, the J1 visa is a well-worn rite of passage for thousands of Irish students, myself and Laura included, many years ago, hoping to work in the United States for the summer.
This week, the US Embassy urged students to get their applications in as quickly as possible after encountering a 6-week-long backlog last year. And here to help us out is Ian Power, Executive Director of spunout.ie. Lovely to have you back with us this morning, Ian.
Morning,
How are you?
Morning. Good.
So why the urgency?
Yeah, so last year there was changes to the process which meant that you had to have a job before you travelled, and that involved a lot of kind of late applications, I think, last year, because it kind of came up as very late in the process. And so the embassy and others in the sponsored programs were dealing with like 6 to 7 week backlogs, and in some cases actually people who had their flights already booked weren't actually able to travel on their designated date because they hadn't their job approved at that point.
You're joking. So are they out of pocket?
I know some people were able to kind of change their flights with their sponsor program and things like that, but some people would have been, yeah. So I think it's really good that the embassy are giving this warning so early, just to say to everybody, get your application in. You don't need to have your job before you apply, but it's good to have the application in now and then sort out all the logistics then thereafter.
Sure, you have a few months,
and all this being a huge tightening up in terms of immigration into the States, as we know, since Trump came in terms of getting the job beforehand. But it is doable, so let's talk about how you actually go about doing it. And the key message is you got to start now and you got to get going.
Yeah, well, one of the great things is that they have allocated 7,000 places again for 2018, which is the same number as there were this year. So there's no decrease in the number of places available, which is really good. The main thing to do now is to shop around. So there's a number of different sponsor programs that you need to get approval or get put on their program, essentially. And the ones we would know best would be Use It and Say It. And there's other camp counsellor programs and things which have become very popular as well. So find out which one it is that you want to go to and which one you want to apply to, and then start the process from there. And it's a little bit complicated, but there's lots of information online about how to get through it.
Can you just take us back a bit? Tommy and I were chatting earlier on. When we did our J1, you didn't need to have a job. So who's eligible to apply for a J1 now, and what are the changes that have happened over the last number of years, taking into account the jobs that are required?
Sure. So the eligibility is pretty much still the same. So you need to be studying full-time at third level. Okay. So that includes people who are studying here in Ireland, but you could be an Irish student who might be studying in the UK, or you might be on Erasmus this year, for instance, in a European university. So you're still eligible to apply. As well, there's a common myth that final years aren't allowed to apply, but you are actually allowed to apply, just as long as you can prove that you are intending to come back to Ireland after you finish the J1. So that's who's eligible. In terms of the job, yeah, so that's the new requirement that's come in terms of you need to have pre-placement, is what they call it, before you travel. And actually, I think it's probably a good thing, because you'll have heard all the stories about people who spend, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, some even only getting jobs in the last couple of weeks. And it takes that worry away, that you know that you have something before you travel. And so a number of organisations are organising job fairs in the new year, so you'll see them in January, in places like the RDS and elsewhere, where you can go and actually interview with employers before you even travel. You can also, obviously, you can cold call yourself and try and do bits and pieces over the internet and what have you. And also, as well, some of the sponsor programs offer a package where you pay extra for them to find you the job. So there's a number of different options really available.
Okay.
Give us some tips then, in terms of if you do want to go down the route of researching it yourself and trying to pick somewhere to go and a suitable job. Give us some tips and do's and don'ts in that regard.
Sure. So the main thing to do is to really try to pick somewhere that's kind of a busy tourist destination. So what you want is a place that's going to have lots of bars and restaurants and places where there's going to be opportunities.
Like, realistically, you're going to be doing seasonal work. You're probably not going to get the big, placement in a legal firm. Or
But I would be surprised now if it's not gone more corporate, if you have to have the sponsorship. I mean, gone are the days of knocking, bar after bar after bar, because those guys may not be the ones turning up at the job fair.
Is that the case, Ian? Is it still seasonal work?
There's a bit of it, yeah. I mean, seasonal still is the bread and butter of it, so restaurants and bars and things like that. But you can get lucky and get those internships when people know that the visa system has kind of tightened up a bit. Also, what's really popular now is the camp counsellor program. So that's where you basically go to some random part of the States, often like Montana or somewhere like that, and you're based in a camp with loads of other leaders from around the world, and you're basically running a summer camp for children and young people over there. And that seems to have
great
taken on.
experience.
I could see you doing that. You'd have great
I don't know.
That seems to have taken on a lot of popularity in the last couple of years as well.
So you have to pick your destination. Tommy mentioned CV as well.
Yeah, so over there as well, obviously they call them resumes, and it's really important that they're short. So they don't like, sometimes we can do 3- and 4-page CVs over here, whereas it needs to be kind of pretty much a one-pager, selling yourself as best as you possibly can, and just making sure that, you put any relevant experience. Sometimes we downplay kind of hospitality experience for some reason. Put that up front,
that's
especially
they want
they want to know that. They don't necessarily want to know what you're studying, although that's important to them as well. But they want to see that you've maybe worked in a kitchen or a restaurant or a bar before.
References, will they check them? Are they important to American employers?
Absolutely. They're very important to American employers, particularly because they're kind of taking a chance on you because you're coming for the summer and the summer only, so they're not going to get a chance to keep you afterwards, maybe. So, yeah, I think make sure that you've got 2 or 3 references. Make sure that the references are available to take the calls as well. A lot of the time, obviously, with the time difference, it can be a little bit tricky. Make sure those references are kind of close to you so that you can kind of keep them informed that they might be getting a call from a prospective employer.
Don't do what I did, which is make up fictional references.
That's really important. They will see through. They will see through it as well.
They didn't, But don't do that. Don't do that. I did get a job. But it's interesting. I did do that thing and traipse the streets of Chicago for about 2 weeks, and the Western Union getting money wired over to keep you alive. Do you have to have a minimum amount of money as well going into the country, or is that still?
You do. So I mean, it just basically depends on where you're going and for how long, and so it's just important to kind of check all those details out and make sure that you have everything that you need when you arrive at the airport, because the last thing you want is to get into either pre-clearance or customs on the other side and to be not left into the country.
Ian, from your experience, 7,000 students travelled over to the US last year. What was their experience like? And do you think these strict rules that have come into play have actually helped the whole process for them?
Yeah, I mean, last year was, I guess, kind of an anomaly in the sense that it was the first year and it was kind of, down to the wire for a lot of people. So the people who had their job before they went and were able to go and fly when they were expected to fly, I think it really did reduce the anxiety, because all you really needed to do when you got over there then was find somewhere to live and to have a good time. And that's what it's all about, right? I think for maybe the people who were kind of caught up in the last minute anxiety, maybe it wasn't kind of the best experience at the start, but certainly they would have had a great time afterwards. So I think the other thing to make sure when you're on a J1 is that you're looking out for your friends and family from home as well, so that you're kind of, there's been a number of different things that have happened kind of on J1s over the last couple of years, and we'd like everyone to keep safe.
It's so much easier to keep in touch than back in our day, Laura, when it was a phone call once every month or something like that.
That's true.
And obviously online Facebook groups that you can get involved in as well. Yeah.
That's actually a really good thing that's kind of happened over the last few years as well. The Facebook groups pop up of location-based kind of groups, so that you can join the group of the place you're going to, and people can answer each other's questions and maybe find roommates and things like that.
Lots of help there. Ian, thanks for telling us all about that. Get started now, basically. Start researching, get your application in. Ian Power spun out. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Ian.
Still to come, the stunning, still brewing up a storm 30 years later.
Plus, we're sampling poutine and we're going to have more festive party styles. See you soon.